Previously on Gaslighting.
It was on the 13th floor. A monster came out and grabbed my mommy.
Now you know, dear, there's no such thing as monsters.
She's destroying the city!
There's no such thing as monsters.
Bitch! That's the only response. It's literally the only response.
And now the return of some old friends. Alright, we're back for the beginning of the end. Kinda, sorta. History of Power Rangers, Cosmic Fury. Now, the last time I can remember being excited for a new season of Power Rangers was probably when I was like 7 years old. And I was excited for Dino Thunder just because, like, oh, it's dinosaurs, just like the old one was. And at that point, I didn't even know that Jason David Frank would be back as Tommy. So that was a genuine surprise, for me at least. But then, of course, cut all the way to late summer, early fall of 2023. And I was genuinely excited for Cosmic Fury. I mean, I had just, at that point, watched all of the Dino Fury episodes, and I loved Dino Fury a lot, still do. And I was excited because it was going to be the big 30th anniversary season. David Yost was coming back as the original Blue Ranger, Billy. It was going to have elements from all the different seasons, hopefully, that would tie everything together. And of course, it had the big return of Lord Zed as the main villain. So there was a lot to look forward to with Cosmic Fury. Of course, it was also coming off the heels of the 30th anniversary special, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always. Now, I don't know if Lewis did a History of Power Rangers video for that specifically, although, judging by how long this is going to be, it wouldn't surprise me if he actually did cover that during the Cosmic Fury video, so we'll just have to wait and see. Oh, and for the first time in any of these videos, I'm finally wearing a Power Rangers shirt. This is a shirt I got at Snipes. I think it's one of the Snipes stores that mainly sells shoes, but they also sell t-shirts. And I saw, oh, they got a Power Rangers shirt, and it was only like, I think like $10. One neat thing about this shirt is that it's one of the few newer Power Rangers shirts I've seen that has Tommy as the White Ranger instead of the Green. And I'll be honest, I always preferred him as the White Ranger. No offense to people who like the Green Ranger saga and all. It's just that, at least for me, from a visual standpoint, it just looks better. I don't know, that's just my opinion. Anyway, no more wasting time. Let's just jump right in, shall we? History of Power Rangers, Cosmic Fury. And also, again, judging by how long this is going to be, just like how it's been with Dino Fury, this is going to have to be cut into at least 4 parts. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot, but, you know, I'm looking forward to it, at the very least. So, anyway, got my soda. Let's get going. Turn the volume up enough. Here we go.
I was promised a report on weapons capability. This was just flailing.
Flailing?
It wasn't even in time.
Lord Zed, Emperor of Evil, Destroyer of Worlds, and Hater Supreme.
Sure
Welcome,
is,
my friends,
sure
to
is.
Power Rangers Cosmic Fury. I should clarify something from last time. Several people were annoyed by my segment talking about beast morphers and how I didn't think it should take place in the Prime Universe. Putting
yeah,
aside
that.
their own thoughts on how
I
they
just
felt it
kept
was
saying,
decided
"Just
from the
let it
first
go,
episode
Lewis.
with the villains being
Just let
mentioned,
it
not really.
go."
Mayor Daniel says every monster in every dimension before listing off the villains, which to me implied they were threats from other universes. I don't deny it's in the Prime Universe. Dino Fury confirmed it. Simon Bennett confirmed it. It is fact regardless of my opinions. My fan-wanking and nitpicking does not change that, and I acknowledge it. I just don't think it makes sense for beast morphers to be in the main universe. but it doesn't matter what I think. Although I do have to laugh at those who say I'm thinking way too hard about this stuff, when kind of the entire point of History of Power Rangers is to think far too much about a children's show that features evil pizzas that are no match for a simple stoplight, and ancient ninja electric guitars, and dinosaur keys that shoot black holes, and monsters shaped like keyboards. I need a keyboard with a no button. 30 years of Power Rangers, and it's always been a goofy show, and I read much more into things than most people ever should or would. But there's that really interesting thing right there, isn't it? 30 years of Power Rangers. At the time of this recording, we live in a strange, somewhat unprecedented era of media consumption and creation. Back when I was growing up, the popular wisdom of children's media was that it lasted a few years, and then the show ended and it never came back. Revivals of old shows did happen, reunion movies, maybe a sequel series, but this wasn't for material made for children. Nostalgic revivals were for stuff like Gilligan's Island movies, Star Trek The Next Generation coming about because of various factors, including syndication keeping interest in the franchise alive. Or maybe The Munsters and the Addams Family would get a TV movie of the like to try to get lightning to strike twice. While these kinds of things were family friendly, children were not the target audience for them. Children's media didn't get revivals because when you were an adult, you were supposed to stop caring about the stuff you watched as a kid. I mean, I'm still waiting on that gritty reboot of MathNet. But back then, media was also harder to consume. TiVo and DVRs didn't exist. You were at the whims of a TV station's programming. Maybe you'd get lucky by setting a VCR to record it, but that wasn't the norm for most. If they missed it, they missed it unless it's in reruns. Home media? Videotapes would generally hold no more than 2 episodes of any given show, even if they could fit more. It was rare for an entire series to be released on home media, and even then it was ridiculously overpriced compared to later DVD and Blu-ray box sets. But after the 80s and 90s, millennials who grew up with shows like Transformers or My Little Pony, or indeed Power Rangers, just didn't stop watching. Companies kept making new seasons and new shows. Casts would rotate out, animation styles would change, but the core concept of these series wouldn't go away, and the audience stuck around far past the point they were supposed to. Some attribute this to sociological changes. I grew up in an era when the Cold War had just ended, and the youth of that time had several cultural revolutions of their own. The disaffected of the 90s, spoiled for choice in a world that no longer feared mutually assured destruction and consequently choosing nothing, a response to the yuppies and Reaganomics of the 80s, the embrace of the excessive extreme in their media, comic books especially, leading into a more mellow outlook by the late 90s until that was shattered by 9/11, and, well, we're still paying for that culturally. Point is, my generation, now adults, just does not have the same kind of upbringing as our parents did, and just didn't see a need to reject the childish things of our past anymore. Especially when technology, stuff like the internet and YouTube, suddenly allowed us to share the things that we loved with more people than ever before. History of Power Rangers itself spawned from that. Furthermore, millennials are adults with their own children now, and with streaming services and entire series released on home media, those adults can share the things they enjoyed with their children and make new fans. And that same media is catering to those adults. There's merchandise specifically for the people who grew up with stuff in the 80s through the 2000s that's just bigger, more expensive versions of the toys they had when they were kids. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying it's unprecedented. The nostalgic boom of the last decade or two is not like the one those parents in the 80s had. You didn't see them wearing shirts mashing up Star Trek the original series and the Mary Tyler Moore Show or something. You didn't see new versions of toys made for Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles, but intended for adults. And thus we have the bizarre situation that's before us today. Children's media that is also specifically pandering to adult fans. Power Rangers Beast Morphers featured the return of Venjix in the finale. Was specifically planned to have Venjix return and tie up a loose end that had been left at the end of its series just over a decade beforehand. They made tons of references to past Ranger series, brought back actors from previous seasons when they were under no obligation to do so, even for the sake of utilizing Sentai footage from a crossover. No child who was just joining the franchise for the first time would care about any of this. But adults cared. Adults talked about it. I, as an adult, talked about it. I started making a massive retrospective series over a decade ago about a children's franchise And it's probably my most popular thing I do, with people still asking, when's the next one? And have you stopped uploading old ones? And as someone who spent a good chunk of these videos making fan theories and conspiracies and seeing patterns and things that aren't there, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a sense of vindication for me as a fan when I am catered to with fan service references. But something that should give you pause in this is that by bringing in lots more nostalgic aspects that cater to a very specific demographic, you run the risk of the product being more about that than about being something new. Because there is a demographic that is going to grow up and have a different kind of nostalgia than you had. And would you rather your show be nothing but references to older stuff, or would you rather create something that lives up to its legacy? But speaking of that legacy, that brings us to the first thing we'll be discussing today. Power Rangers Once and Always, the 30th anniversary special for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, reuniting a ton of actors from the original series. Obviously, it doesn't have everybody. Even before his tragic passing, Jason David Frank had said that he wasn't going to be in it, wanting to finally distance himself from the role that made him famous. Austin St. John ran into some legal issues involving the Paycheck Protection Program. Long story, Google it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, while on probation, he wasn't legally allowed to travel beyond convention appearances and thus couldn't be there for filming. And Amy Jo Johnson, who's always had a weirder relationship with the franchise, declined to participate in the special, but did say that she'd be writing some Power Rangers comics for Boom Studios for the anniversary. And of course, Twee Trang passed away in 2001. But Mighty Morphin Power Rangers wasn't.
She did write a series of comics to tie in with the 30th anniversary. I think it's called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers: The Return. I might give it a read sometime. You know, if I get a chance to, I will. So, anyway, let's keep going.
Just the first season's cast. So they were able to bring in those who took their spots in seasons 2 and 3, if even just for cameos. Right. And frankly, the fact that they were able to bring back David Yost, who had left the show under less than ideal circumstances, is pretty damn impressive. In fact, he apparently was the one who conceived of the reunion special back in 2021. And to be perfectly honest,
and I have a theory as to why he came back, like one of the big reasons for why I think he came back. But I'll save that for later.
Zach was my favorite of the original 5, so seeing Walter Jones back and carrying a lot of the story is pretty damn cool. But let's get into the special itself. We open in media res. Billy, back in the blue Mighty Morphin suit, is fighting a bunch of putties, as well as a reborn robot version of Rita Repulsa. The restoration of the original Mighty Morphin powers is never really given any focus, and it is the originals, not the Thunder powers or the Ninja powers. As we've discussed in previous videos, it's very easy to believe the powers were repaired, or Ninjor made new coins, or hell, they've all got Master Morphers now. Mind you, that yet again brings up the age-old question of, wait, if there are past Ranger...
That's my theory, that, you know, all the OG Rangers have Master Morphers. In fact, my headcanon is that it was Billy who made the Master Morphers, and also the one that Tommy had in Dimensions in Danger. That's my headcanon. No, it's whether that's true or not is we don't know. But again, that's just how what I think happened.
Teams who still have their powers and are active, why aren't they helping out the latest season? Well, you could probably say their powers were only restored recently, or they're fighting other threats, or hell, especially when it comes to this team, maybe they're just retired. They've done their bit for King and Country, and while they're happy to help in a pinch, as we saw with them in Beast Morphers, they finally took up the offer from back in Doomsday to live their normal lives and can't be expected to spend every waking moment fighting the good fight when there are others taking up the job. It should be noted that this is not just a return for the Rangers, but two very missed aspects of the original series. Barbara Goodson playing Rita again, and Ron Wasserman back on music.
Oh, yeah.
No new full songs, but his score is still good.
Why'd you lead me here? Was your grand plan just to die outside in the fresh sea breeze?
Actually, it's because he loves Lord of the Rings and was hoping to head up the Hobbit village before he died. This is New Zealand, after all. The other Rangers arrive, and we get our title logo along with the theme song, because 30 years later, Go Go Power Rangers remains awesome. Billy manages to smash Rita's face, but in her anger, she blasts him back and charges up a massive attack meant to kill him. Trini, however, leaps in front of it and takes the blast, vaporizing her.
If anyone needs me, I'll be in the dark dimension planning my revenge.
Okay, this could be good or bad, guys. Good because that Doctor Who special never got produced, or bad because she's planning to team up with Dormammu. Billy and Zach go back to Trini's house to decide what to tell her daughter, Min, and this scene is really the big chance to highlight the acting of our two primary leads for the special.
The others might need help searching the dark dimension.
You can't decide quick on how to tell someone the worst news of their life.
We don't know who Min's father is or what happened to him, but we learn that Trini was raising Min on her own, and she comes in and overhears their argument. We cut to 1 year later. Zach, who apparently is a congressman now, wonder if he used hip-hop keto in any of his campaign ads, is raising Min, who's been training herself to take revenge on Rita. As I said, because of the lack of the presence of a lot of the other original Mighty Morphin members, Walter Jones and David Yost do most of the heavy lifting in this story. Honestly, this ends up working to the special's benefit, allowing Zach and Billy to get the focus in terms of character development alongside Min instead of trying to split it between all the characters. Plus, they were able to work the absence of the other actors into the plot as demonstration of the villain's plan. Art from adversity. Since it's the anniversary of Trini's death, the two head to her grave to give her some flowers, but arrive just as Robo-Rita has returned with roboticized versions of two of her monsters, Snizzard and the Minotaur. I initially thought the choices for the monsters they brought back for this were kind of odd. Much like the Megazords, a lot of the monsters on Power Rangers tend to blend into each other after watching 30 years worth of them, with exceptions only happening if they're particularly interesting, like the aforementioned keyboard monster from Ninja Steel, Typeface. I love that thing. The original Mighty Morphin ones are more memorable to me, but that's mostly my nostalgia talking. Snizzard I remember mostly because of the name, but I don't recall it being that memorable compared to Eye Guy or Pudgy Pig. Me personally though, I would have brought back the Pumpkin Rapper.
Welcome to my pumpkin patch. Perhaps you'd like to play some catch.
I think one of the reasons for why they brought back Snizzard specifically is, and I could be wrong about this, I think Snizzard was one of the monsters in the original run of Mighty Morphin that was voiced by Bryan Cranston. And of course, Bryan Cranston would go on to play Zordon in the 2017 reboot movie. So I think that's one of the reasons for why they chose Snizzard to be in this. Let's keep going.
Rows of human graves. This place is beautiful.
Yeah, this special is still family friendly, but damn if they don't use the fact that this is technically for adult fans to up their writing game. More mentions of killing and death and stuff that the show proper could get away with. Min is eager to go after Rita, but Zach forbids her from entering the fray. Snizzard uses its powers to paralyze Jason, Kimberly, and Tommy before they shrink down into action figures. Available now at your local retailer. They're placed on some kind of machine Rita has been working on that's draining their energy. Zach and Billy retreat with Min in the Rad Bug 2. And yes, of course it can fly. Why would you build a Rad Bug 2 if it couldn't? Min wants to join against Rita, but since she's not a ranger, they say she'd get killed. That the best thing she can do is to sit tight and do nothing.
Says the guy who caused all this. It stung, huh? Good.
See, Zordon? That is a teenager with attitude. On the moon, Rita has reestablished her palace, which they still call Bandora Palace, even though this is CGI. She is not named Bandora, and I didn't even realize as a kid that it said that because, hey, old CRT TVs. The power drain on our heroes is pretty slow, so Rita prepares to attack the Earth to lure out more Rangers, not just the Mighty Morphin team, to grab more for her device. We cut over to Cranston Tech, aka Billy's company, aka the new command center. I do wonder if they asked to use the House of the Book again for filming. It's still being used for occasional location shooting by shows as recently as 2023. They wouldn't have to hide the non-desert environment for it either, since obviously Cranston Tech isn't located on Vasquez Rocks anyway. Anyway, inside the...
I think one of the reasons for why they chose not to, use that location specifically is because, well, they wanted to keep the filming in New Zealand, and plus, that would have cost more money. And while this does definitely have a noticeably larger budget than the show had, at least over the past decade, I feel like there was still a bit of okay, this is how much money you're going to have and nothing more. So that means you can't film where the original command center is in LA. Or is it in LA? I know it's in California, but where in California? Future Mark, where is it located? there we go. But yeah, I feel like they didn't film it there, again, because of money reasons more than anything else. And they wanted to keep filming primarily in New Zealand at that point, so. But anyway, let's keep going.
Command Center is Alpha 9, and yes, Richard Horvitz finally returns to voice the character.
Right, he did,
Sadly,
yeah.
the fact that it's been 20 years since he played the role is noticeable. It still sounds like him, but Horvitz's voice sounds decidedly more raspy than it used to. A little more Invader Zim than Daggett, if that makes any sense.
It's good to see you again. Been a while.
Zach! When are you going to introduce a bill for universal basic income? A flashback reveals how this all started. Billy theorized that Zordon may not have been dead after the Z-Wave, that his energy could be reconstituted back into him. They detected a powerful presence in the residual particles and drew them in, but it turns out they accidentally grabbed Rita's consciousness instead, washed out of her body as a separate entity from the woman she turned into. This is consequently how people theorize Zed works with his resurrection last season, that Lord Zed is a separate force from the body he was in and could thus be resurrected separately. I find that dubious, but for the purposes of storytelling, we're going with that. Anyway, Rita's consciousness went into Alpha 8 and transformed him into Robo Rita's new body. Putties start attacking all over the world, and it seems Billy hasn't been sitting on his ass since then. He's established the Bandora Protocol, a massive network to warn all other Power Rangers teams about Rita's return from the Dark Dimension. So, like, the Rangers are all in contact with each other. An entire protocol is in place for Rita's return. Why has nobody been talking with each other about Zed's return? Or was this little Ranger group text set up after Zed returned and they realized, you know, we should really have a way of contacting each other about this stuff? According to Simon Bennett, Once and Always takes place before Dino Fury, but isn't this exactly the kind of thing the Bandora Protocol was set up for? Or was it just for Rita? God, Master Org is gonna come back again and nobody's gonna hear about it. Consequently, there does seem to be some confusion on the timeline. As I said, Simon Bennett said this takes place before Dino Fury, but I've already read other sources claim that the events of Cosmic Fury lead into Once and Always. Honestly, they could go either way. It's not like one directly references the other. I'm doing it in terms of release order. In any case, while Kim and Jason are out of action, Kat and
my headcanon is that this takes place after season 1 of Dino Fury and before season 2. So that there's like a good chunk of time between when we see Billy in this and when we see Billy again in Cosmic Fury. But again, that's just my headcanon personally.
and Rocky are not, so they get summoned. Rocky became a firefighter, good for him, and Kat confirms that she was taking care of JJ, who is her and Tommy's son.
Yeah.
Yes, it's official confirmation that Tommy and Kat ended up together. That means that Christmas special in the future is canon. Damn it all, Tommy and Kimberly were supposed to end up together. Ooh, but Kat and Tommy were holding hands in Dimensions in Danger already. Well, I'm holding up my middle finger right now, so read what meaning you wanted to that. Let me have my ship, damn it.
Fair.
Anyway,
That's
Min
fair.
sees from the Angel Grove division of Buzz Ballyhoo that putties are attacking Ernie's juice bar. Nice to know that the place is stuck around. Think Lieutenant Stone is still running it? And she takes
he's probably
Trini's old
retired by
morpher to
that
try to go help. As for Kat and Rocky, Alpha and Billy have constructed proxy power coins that will allow them temporary access to the Mighty Morphin powers again. Zack points out that according to Zordon, duplicating active powers is very dangerous.
I don't care how dangerous too much pink energy is. Once a ranger,
That's right. They used the
Always
line.
a ranger.
They used the line.
Oh, hey! They said the thing! They mentioned the once a ranger thing! And nothing else. Nothing else. Nope. No other meme that I may have popularized. I don't hold any sway or power or influence over this show that I watched as a child. Because if I did, I'd be having an existential crisis about it and how I, the dumbass who makes boner jokes and oh brother where art thou references and thinks way too hard about children's media, somehow I made an impact on a 30th anniversary special for this franchise. It's a real good thing. It's a good thing that didn't happen. It's good that didn't happen. It's good that didn't happen. Oh God, what am I doing? I just wanted to talk about how I thought it was neat that there was a subtle magic versus technology thing in the original Mighty Morphin. How did it come to this? Why is this happening? Somebody help me!
Personally, I would be proud of that sort of thing. If I was Lewis, I'd be proud of that. Like, I wouldn't feel, kind of weird about that. Not at all. I'd be like, holy shit, I had some sway over the writers over this. I mean, hey, it could be a total coincidence, but, that's a hell of a coincidence, if you ask me.
Anyway, I'm disappointed Tommy and Kat officially got together. I just don't feel they have the same chemistry as Tommy and Kim, but what the hell do I know? Anyway, Morphin Sequence is a nice update on the original. Nothing is majorly overhauled as, say, Adams in Once a Ranger, just remaking the visuals with modern tech. Neat that Kat gets the El Pterodactyl for the first time. Our hero soon learns that the monsters can track them while they're morphed, which makes fighting the putties harder since Snizzard keeps trying to kidnap them. Oh, and while Bulk and Skull sadly do not appear in the special properly, disappointing since they're the true heroes of the franchise, we do see this banner for Skullovich and Bulkmeyer Bulk Food Company, which I suppose explains why Skull seemed to be rich at the end of Samurai. Some kind of bulk food distributor, and he's brought Bulk in on it. 25 years later after Turbo, and they're still finding new careers to take up. Back at the command center, they get contacted by Adam and Aisha.
One could say that the gig economy was practically built for them. Like, that was my thought when I saw that little bit. I'm like, wow, after all this time, they're still doing all these different things. The gig economy is practically built for them nowadays.
We're now part of, get this, Space Patrol Alpha.
Right,
yep, Adam and Aisha are responsible for Proto-SPD, and they even mention how stealth technology that Billy developed helped them in their fight against the Trubian Empire. Mind you, this does make one wonder where the hell they were during the events of SPD, but again, probably actively retired after that. Anyway, Adam and Aisha say they'll be there in 6 hours with reinforcements, but that may be too late given how many putties are attacking. Rocky suggests they take the fight to Rita, but the same problem holds. If they're captured, Rita's machine will only get more bodies to power it. Billy starts thinking about using the stealth tech to build something to keep the monsters away from them while they attack the moon. But then they spot on security monitors Min intervening in the juice bar. She decides it's time.
It's morphin' time! Saber-tooth tiger!
Well, to be fair, Min, it has been sitting unused for a year. Maybe the battery's corroded. Subtle bit of world building here. When Min punches a putty in the face, her hand hurts from it. The quick implication is that despite how it may seem when the Rangers are fighting them, the putties are actually fairly strong and the material they're made of is harder than flesh. It basically means that, yeah, ordinary people can fight them, but it's harder than against a regular human opponent. So it's better to have a Power Ranger do it. She does better than most, but she's still a regular human outnumbered 30-1, so they soon overwhelm her. Zack and Rocky arrive to help.
Messing with this place was a big mistake.
Messing around with my adopted daughter? Take it or leave it. They bring Min back to the command center.
She's gonna need to talk.
Can I help?
Thanks. I got this.
I mean, he is a politician. He's probably used to giving speeches that sound condescending. No, of course it's better than that. Min thinks that she's following on from her mother's footsteps, acting like they did when they were her age, but Zack
Sorry, my cat Nacho was tapping me on the shoulder like, hey, Mark, hey. He does that from time to time. So that's why I was looking down.
points out that the reason the Morpher won't work for her is because she's after revenge. Revenge is an inherently selfish act, and as Zack says, being a hero is about being selfless. We also learn that Zack actually left Congress to focus on raising Min, which further shows how this is a work of fiction.
Ow.
Zack explains to Min how much Billy is trying to make up.
Sorry about that. He was reaching up to me and started digging his claws. That's why this boy is a little tiger. Don't go start, making noise and knocking shit over. Or I swear to God. I swear to God. Oh wait, he's starting to do that. starting is... God, I hate when I trip on my words like that. This is why I'm a better writer than I am a public speaker. Now he's going after a toy. He has this little spiral toy that he plays with. He has a couple of spiral toys. We call them his springies. So, anyway. Hopefully he won't cause too much of a ruckus to distract. So, let's keep on going.
For what happened, and that this was all in service of trying to bring back Zordon, so lay off him a bit. While the Rangers set up their plan, we see that Rita was able to capture some more Rangers. Most confusingly, what appears to be the Phantom Ranger and 3 Lost Galaxy Rangers.
Right.
What are they doing back on Earth? Our heroes spring the trap, luring the monsters into a junkyard before getting locked in place with an electromagnet. The field also preventing them from teleporting away. Min objects to keeping them alive, but Billy says this is the plan they're sticking to.
Look, all-out destruction is rarely the most optimal strategy.
What franchise do you think this is, Billy? All-out destruction is 99.9% of the time the most optimal strategy, to the point where you are formulaic in your approach. I mean, what, do you think you're going to get Lord Zed to just surrender or something? The Rangers head to Rita's palace with personal one-time use cloaking devices to infiltrate it. Min takes the rad bug out to go kill the monsters, stopping along the way to help a guy and his boyfriend who have been attacked by putties, employing the ever-useful martial arts technique of running them the hell over. Once more, the morpher doesn't work, and what's worse, Rita arrives to free the monsters. Min tries to fight her, and you can probably imagine how well that goes. Our heroes find the device and examine it, Billy realizing that the only way to free the others is by destroying Snizzard. Oh man, how could you have guessed that all-out destruction would be the solution to a monster's spell? It's only the exact same thing you have had to deal with for 30 years! More importantly, Billy realizes what the device is. It's a time portal. Rita is planning on going back to when she was first freed from the space dumpster and give herself the knowledge of the future. Kill the Rangers in their sleep before Zordon recruits them, and, you know, conquer the universe and all. Rita prepares to zap Billy as before, but Min jumps into the path of the blast. However, this time it directly strikes the morpher, awakening its powers, and the selfless act infuses her with that power. Mind you, it feels like the person who was fully morphed already should have been able to survive it then, but hey, if you're really that much of a stickler for that, you could argue that the blast wasn't as powerful as the one that killed Trini, because Rita didn't charge it up as much. They morph, and fight scene ensues.
Maybe watching you die will cure my headache.
In my experience watching bad media, Rita, not as much as you'd think. She makes Snizzard grow to make sure they can't destroy him with their weapons, and while they're distracted, Billy stabs Robo-Rita through the back. That one's for the abandoned warehouse district, Rita. They summon the Zords, and I've got to say, while the CGI Megazord itself is not great, it's still pretty damn cool to see. But a lot of praise should go to the recreations of the Zord summoning. In a few spots, it looks really like practical models, and it's very impressive in that regard. And it's still a giant robot fight on the moon, and that's pretty damn awesome. Robo-Rita revives and activates the portal.
Plus, you know, the CGI there, especially in this, I mean, it's not like, you know, ILM quality, but, you know, compare that to, say, the CGI in the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie from 1995, and it looks better than that, at least. I mean, look, I still love that movie. I still do, but... oh boy, that CGI did not age well at all. And I was going to compare it to Jurassic Park, which came out just 2 years before this, but that had Spielberg money, and this obviously did not. They had to work with whatever they could get, you know? I still love that movie, though. I got the Blu-ray for it and everything.
But Snizzard gets destroyed, freeing the Rangers and blasting both the device and Rita herself once and for all. And we'll never see her again. Adam and Aisha arrive to take the action figure Rangers to Aquitar to restore them to normal. Adam even mentions the Aquino who hooked up with Billy and Zeo misses him, making me wonder why they didn't just make Billy officially gay or bi in the story. It's also neat we have Adam and Zach shake hands, since of course their actors were never actually on screen together before. And after saying their goodbyes, Zach, Billy, and Min hang out at the juice bar.
So what do you think of your communicator?
I don't mind that they didn't make Billy gay in the same way that just like how David Yost is gay in real life. Because I mean, look, this is just my theory, but I think this is has something to do with what happened with the recent Star Trek movies, where John Cho's Sulu was confirmed to be gay in Star Trek Beyond, which actually made the original Sulu actor, George Takei, not happy. Obviously, George Takei is gay in real life, but he didn't want Sulu to be gay in Star Trek. That was just his personal preference. That's understandable. So I guess maybe that was kind of similar to that. Again, that's just my headcanon. I could be completely wrong. I could be completely wrong. Who knows? Let's keep going.
Love the vintage aesthetic.
You say that, but smartwatches are a thing now. The juice bar is weirder for keeping up the vintage aesthetic than the communicators. Min formally apologizes for the cruel things she said to Billy and talks about how the Morphers showed her memories of back then. Billy thinks that maybe he shouldn't give up on recovering Zordon, and we end on a loving tribute to our late friends. Yeah. Once and Always is pretty damn good. There is an argument to be made about whether incorporating an actor's death into a character death is appropriate, especially when from a narrative perspective it ends up being part of another character's motivation, but I think this was handled pretty respectfully. It displayed some legitimately mature storytelling by making one of the central plot points a major character's death and the reactions around it. Yeah. And yet it never loses the feeling that this is Power Rangers, cheese and all. Is it perfect? Hardly. Some line deliveries are weaker than others. Is it the best anniversary episode? Nope, sorry, Forever Red still wins there. But it's fun. It lets us catch up on a bunch of familiar characters and ensures that the legacy of this team remains intact. It includes genuinely good dramatic moments for David Yost and Walter Jones, particularly when they're arguing about whether to tell Min the full truth about her mother. It's not doing Megaforce over again by bringing in everybody. I feel like they should have done more with the time travel idea, but obviously budget constraints and all, along with Rita, our old enemy Money, returns. But it's just a fun nostalgia trip to see these characters together again, training the next generation, and that sometimes the things we love can come back. That we can get some resolution and a nod from the franchise that their stories aren't over, but we shouldn't dwell on them forever or deny the next generation their inheritance. Now then, since we showed that Walter Jones is still a damn good actor, can we finally get a frickin' resolution for Space Cases already? It's possible that this is going to be the last time we see the old guard at all, aside from Cosmic Fury, more on that soon. Rumors always abound of a Power Rangers reboot, and the introduction of elements like Proto-SPD means that they're actually paying attention to how the show is supposed to work in the in-universe 2025. But if and when Power Rangers returns, and if they decide to continue instead of rebooting, look, I'm going to say it, I really, really hope they don't bring Zordon back. I feel like it cheapens his sacrifice and the emotional impact it had if they were to restore him. This isn't like Lost Galaxy, where Kendrick's sacrifice came about due to the actress's health issues and they decided to bring her back for a happy ending at the end of the season. This was the team's mentor of several years who gave his life to save the universe. One of the biggest and most impactful moments of the franchise. To just fully bring him back to life would be a mistake. For God's sakes, I've done 2 musical montages for it. What about the musical montages, damn it? Do they mean nothing to you? According to Simon Bennett, apparently the original concept for Once and Always would have featured a new monster based off of a toy that had been buried in a time capsule since the 90s. The monster would throw nostalgia bombs that turned things around it into 90s versions of themselves. A cute idea for a one-off episode, not for the 30th anniversary special. Also, Alpha 8 is just dead. What the hell? But while this is the general send-off for the Mighty Morphin crew and the 30th anniversary special, we also had the 30th anniversary season. And for the first time in a long time, we've got returning actors and continuations of their characters' stories. With one exception. Simon Bennett confirmed that...
I think this is a good place to to pause it for right now. But yeah, no, I personally loved Once and Always. I was really, really excited to see this. When they put out the trailer for it, I was so excited. I shared it across all my social media platforms. I was so hyped. And also the fact that it was being released 2 days before my birthday didn't hurt either. So it came out on April 19th, and my birthday's April 21st. So it felt like an early birthday present, if you will. So, yeah, but I loved Once and Always, and future Mark will further elaborate on that. Will you? Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always is exactly what I've been wanting to see from this franchise for over a decade now. With a few exceptions, I don't think the show has made many strides quality-wise after 2005, especially once Saban bought the show back from Disney. I've said before that I thought most of the seasons made in the 2010s felt like a step backwards. Clearly Saban was trying to recapture the same feel as the early days, but the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was lightning in a bottle, the kind of unexpected success that most wouldn't have seen coming. So instead of adapting with the times, they just kept trying to replicate the Mighty Morphin formula, and in doing so, they ended up feeling out of touch with the current TV landscape for kids and families. That's why I feel that the past few years of PR, or the Hasbro era, is the best the show has been in over a decade. Once and Always is the centerpiece of this in my opinion. The earnestness and cheesiness of those original seasons are still there, but it's well balanced with real dramatic heft and solid character development that thematically feels more modern and also quite in line with later seasons that many fans consider to be the show's all-time best. Moments like Trini's sacrifice, the aftermath of it, her daughter Min's desire for vengeance, and Zack's heart-to-heart with Min are the prime examples of this in my opinion. It felt like the show was finally starting to grow up with its fans. I also appreciated how accessible it was. You didn't have to be completely in the know about what happened after the original MMPR seasons to get what was going on. Ancillary references to what came afterwards wouldn't need to require having to watch every episode and every season after Mighty Morphin. For example, Aisha and Adam being part of Space Patrol Alpha and not being part of the main action. If the viewer hasn't seen SPD and doesn't know what that means, they could just chalk that up as being like when Jason, Zack, and Trini went off to that peace conference. Zordon being gone and Rita being resurrected? It doesn't matter. If anything, that lets the viewer put two and two together that something must have happened in the past in between then and now. Doesn't matter when and in which season, they trust the intelligence of their audience enough to let them put the pieces together themselves. Those little touches and details were of course for the dedicated fans who would appreciate them, but it's woven into the story in an organic way that isn't a distraction, but adds to it for those in the know. Kind of like adding sprinkles on top of a sundae, or Jimmy's for all my Philly, South Jersey people. Just a couple more things. When this dropped on Netflix, it was pretty popular and was on their top 10 for a bit, and it was pretty well received by critics, which was unexpected, but nice to see. Although I do have a bone to pick with this one review I read for it saying that it looks too cheap. Like, look at how the show looked back then compared to now. Sure, it might not have the same size budget as, say, an episode of The Mandalorian or any of the MCU shows, but it's still noticeably bigger than it was back in '93. And keep in mind, this is the first Power Rangers project to be filmed and released entirely in 4K. Objectively, this is the best that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers has ever looked. Also, when it comes to David Yost's return, I mentioned that I have two theories as to what made him fully commit to doing this. Number one being that this wasn't made by the same people he had to deal with back when he used to be on the show, as Hasbro is, at least publicly, more accepting of the LGBTQIA+ community, because as the folks behind MorphinLegacy.com can tell you, gay people collect toys too. Which leads to number two, and this one is probably the most obvious and logical, the creation of Izzy from Dino Fury, with her being the first openly gay Power Ranger in the show's history, a move that Yost himself has publicly praised. I feel like these factors assured Yost that things behind the scenes have changed for the better, and aided in him fully returning for not just Once and Always, but also Cosmic Fury as well. But more on that when we get there. Overall, I think Once and Always is a solid and worthy celebration of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Do I wish certain characters came back for this? Of course, but it was from those limitations that we got something clearly made with genuine love and reverence, as a love letter to the fans, whether they just watched those original 3 seasons, or have stuck around with the show to this day. It's a nostalgia trip, absolutely, but one that was done right. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that there were multiple times throughout the special that really did make me feel like I was 7 years old all over again. It's funny, I actually had planned on doing a full video talking about the special, But obviously that never came to fruition, so I'm glad that I got to talk about it here at least. Would I like to see a follow-up special to this? Sure, absolutely, that'd be great. Whether that actually will happen, though... Let's save a discussion on the future of the show for a later time. How about that? But until then, back to you, me from 2 weeks ago. There we go. So, that's going to be part 1 of my reaction to History of Power Rangers Cosmic Fury. Come back for part 2. Let me see. Depending on what time it is currently, I might film part 2 as well as this. Let me see. Let me check the time. Nah, not tonight. I've done enough filming tonight, so yeah. Come back next time for History of Power Rangers Cosmic Fury Part 2. But as long as I have you here, what did you think of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you wish that they had brought back Austin St. John and Amy Jo Johnson and Jason David Frank? Tell me in the comments down below. And as always, if you like what you saw here, then feel free to click that thumbs up button, as it helps me quite a bit. Share this with your friends, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe. Because I noticed recently that the majority of people that watch my videos aren't subscribed. I really don't understand why that is, because I always try to cater my stuff towards like returning subscribers. So, you know, please do subscribe and click the little notification bell at the bottom. That way you'll never miss a video from yours truly. So, until next time, I'm Marc Aquino. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Marc Aquino YouTube channel.